Well, we're talking with Josh Lynn now, candidate for district attorney. He's the chief trial deputy in the district attorney's office. Welcome, and thanks very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Jerry. Appreciate it.
Elections are about choices. What makes you a better choice for voters than your opponent?
This is really about experience. The district attorney's office sets the tone for law enforcement in the county of Santa Barbara. Our mission is to protect the public safety, and I'm the only candidate in this race that has experience with working with gangs as the head of the domestic violence unit with our $17 million budget, staffing every courtroom in the county, and I'm the only one running that has the overall picture that really understands how our office works from the top down. I'm the only one running that has the endorsements of the people that have run the office for the last 28 years and their management teams, and that's really what this comes down to.
What were the circumstances that led to your decision to run for district attorney?
Well, our office has been in great transition, as you know, Jerry, over the last couple of years. We had a very sad tragedy with Christy Stanley passing away after 3 decades of protecting the community as our elected district attorney. Through that period of transition, there were a number of people that could have either chose to lead the office and to try to further our law enforcement mission, or to go out and do something else for a living. I chose to stay there. I really want to be a career prosecutor. I've been doing it for 15 years, and that's transitioned into both Christy Stanley and Tom Sneddon asking if I would consider running for district attorney, and feeling that I would make a good DA. I've got the experience. I was an administrator. I still am as a chief trial deputy, and all those things combined, in about 2 weeks of conversations with my wife of almost 17 years, we decided to go ahead and do it.
Well, your opponent, Joyce Dudley, who we'll be talking to later, announced her candidacy last September before Ms. Stanley passed away. Was that a factor in your decision?
Ms. Dudley actually announced her candidacy in June, informally, and told Ms. Stanley that she was going to run against her in June. And so I knew for several months. During that period of time, Ms. Stanley was trying to decide whether her health would permit her to seek a second term. And I had the chance to decide whether or not, if Ms. Stanley was not going to seek a second term, I would jump into this race and run for district attorney. I hadn't made up my mind. I hadn't really decided until after Ms. Stanley came to me and said, "I'm not going to run. Would you consider running?" At that point, a few days later, I decided to go ahead and do it.
Is the current law enforcement approach to gang violence in Santa Barbara working, in your opinion?
I think it depends on where you talk. In Santa Barbara County and Lompoc, we've had some great success. In Santa Maria, the problem is very acute, and we are trying very hard to deal with it. We need to deal with the gangs in a twofold approach. And while suppression and law enforcement and dealing with gang members who have committed very violent crimes is absolutely important, and one of the most important things the district attorney does, the second thing we have to do is get back into the schools with the truancy program, the high schools, the junior highs, and reach these kids between 12 and about 17 years old when they really are changeable, when we can show them a better way. That, I think, has been lacking, and only because funding has been at a very bare minimum. Our county is $39 million, as you know, in the red, and until we change that, until the county prioritizes law enforcement at the top of the list, we lose some of our best programs, the ones that are proactive, that really allow the district attorney's office to feel good about what we do, which is to try to prevent crime as well as to punish it.
So what does that budget shortfall mean in terms of trade-offs in the district attorney's office?
It depends on where we ultimately end with the budget. I was the acting district attorney for about 4 months, and for 119 straight days, I dealt with the budget. I tried to address a budget that would, and we coming into this new budget season, leave us with enough resources to prosecute crime effectively, to keep the community safe. We were looking originally at something like $3.9 million in cuts out of a $17.4 million budget. That is a tremendous amount of law enforcement going out the front door, because we're 92% budget of our budget is benefits and salary. So what it is real deputy district attorneys walking out that door. And so we are doing much better now. I think that the Board of Supervisors will reinstate us, will refund us in a way that will allow us to really fight crime in the future.
Let me double back on the gang question. Do we need a gang injunction in Santa Barbara?
A gang injunction would be a very good tool in Santa Barbara if it's done properly, if we have the resources to do it. What we don't want to do is take resources from gang suppression, from solving crime, ongoing stabbings and killings that we've had here, and focus that money in a gang injunction, because it's not a panacea. It's one very good tool in the tool bag. It can address the juvenile gang problem very directly, and I think that we should explore that option. We are currently exploring that option. I'm very much in favor of it so long as we have the resources to do it properly.
Who's the decision maker in that? Whose call is that, whether there is a gang injunction or not? Is that the DA?
It's a collaborative effort between the district attorney and the law enforcement agency in the area in which the injunction would potentially take place. So if you're talking about the city of Santa Barbara, it would be a collaborative effort, at the very least, between the Santa Barbara Police Department and Chief Sanchez and my office, myself. I've been very involved in the process of looking into that. That is a complicated and resource-intensive process for both the law enforcement agency and for the district attorney. Ultimately, it is our decision to seek that in civil court.
If you read the blogs and websites in Santa Barbara, news websites, some people feel that illegal immigration is a big factor in terms of gangs. Do you find that's true?
I find there's a lot of people that believe that. I can tell you that as a statistical matter, countywide, something like 78% of our known gang members are legal residents, are U.S. citizens for the most part. They are your neighbors and mine. And so while I can appreciate the concern that illegal immigration may be affecting adversely, our gang problem, I think that our focus really ought to be specifically on the gangs and the neighborhoods in which those gangs are preying on citizens, rather than where any of these citizens may come from. I think that's really the way to solve the problem.
So you don't feel that there's an outsized amount of public resources that are going into illegal immigration in terms of services such as county jail, prosecutions, other things of that category?
Well, the question was about specifically with respect to gangs.
Right.
I think as a general proposition, there's no doubt that we spend a tremendous amount of money, both county and statewide, on individuals who have been brought into the state criminal justice system or the local criminal justice system who are illegal, who are not in the country legally. That must be dealt with. The issue is typically a federal issue. To the extent that it becomes a local issue, it is a law enforcement issue at the law enforcement level, meaning the police or the sheriff, and we don't address it directly as a district attorney all that often.
Now, you oppose the legalization of marijuana, as I understand it. There's going to be a ballot initiative on the November ballot. But what about medical marijuana dispensaries? Do you think that the state law on medical marijuana is being abused in Santa Barbara to essentially de facto legalize drug dealing?
I think that it has been from time to time. There's any doubt about that. It isn't a matter of being in favor of or opposing legalization of marijuana. For a district attorney, for my office and the people that work for me, it's about clarity. We need to know what the law is, what the law demands of our citizens, so that we can implement that law and enforce it properly. The problem with Prop 215, the medical marijuana law, is it's just illegal enough to make it very profitable, which causes other crimes. As you know, these storefront dispensaries, for instance, sometimes cause crime. And just legal, it's just legal enough that we can't prosecute it in any meaningful way many times. And so what we're looking for with the law is clarity. Storefront dispensaries, for-profit marijuana sales are by and large illegal. And if they are done illegally, we will go after them. But that's not a judgment call on marijuana per se. That is following our oath to enforce the law.